Welcome to Good Burger Reviews. My name is John, and I'm here to review a brand new 2026 movie, and that movie is Primate.
Ben?
Did something bite him?
Ben?
This movie was released in January of 2025. It is directed by Johannes Roberts. It's starring Johnny Sequoia, Jessica Alexander, Victoria Wyant, Troy Kotcher, and Gia Hunter. Lucy's tropical island homecoming turns deadly when her family's clever chimpanzee, Ben, becomes rabid. With her father away and no help coming, paradise becomes a prison as Lucy and her friends fight for survival against a pet they once trusted. When I primarily think of a good blend for this movie, Primate, I think of Scream meets Outbreak. But I also found it was a little bit derivative, or maybe just some moments where there was some other movies blending in as well. I think of Cujo, Jurassic Park, Halloween, and Open Water. And like I've said many times before last year, what an odd blend for a movie. But this one's pretty interesting. Even though there's not too much originality to it, it is a fun watch. So let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly on Primate. Well, in the positives is the gory horror. This movie is strongest when the monkey is at its most evilest, attacking and being brutal. And this movie does not hold back on the gore. There's also a nice blend of tension with the horror and gore because we never know what this rabid monkey is going to do as it chases these teenage girls and boys around their paradise home. I felt there were a lot of intense moments and parts where I was looking away because of how wild this movie got. I also come to find out that Ben the monkey was actually played by Miguel Torres, an actual actor and not an actual monkey as far as I can tell. But they did a really good job of making this monkey look super real and acted a lot like a typical chimpanzee or monkey would act. What I liked about this movie that I'll put in the positives is the music. It really was giving me a John Carpenter 1980s vibe, but also giving me a really good vibe of a great musical track that was in World War Z. So the music is really good in Primate. So I said it was a Scream meets Outbreak, and it pretty much was, because the monkey gets rabies from a wild mongoose and then starts going down this Cujo storyline and ends up trapping all of our protagonists and final girls in a swimming pool because Ben, our monkey, can't swim. But also was giving me that Outbreak vibe because it's a rabid monkey terrorizing people in a movie. And of course, the go-to crazy monkey Outbreak movie is Outbreak. As the movie progressed, I was getting that Cujo and Open Water feeling as well. And the reason I say Cujo is because, well, it's their pet, it has rabies, and they're pretty much stuck. Now, they're not stuck in a car like the characters in Cujo were, but they're stuck in a swimming pool for the majority of the movie. And since they spend a fairly good portion of the movie floating in a pool, even falling asleep in moments, and I'll get back to that, it was giving me an Open Water feeling because it was, like I talked about over the summer, stranded with sharks. Well, this is stranded with a creature and they're floating in water. I mean, it was the same feeling in parts as they just sat there and stared this crazy monkey in the face waiting for someone to rescue them. So I'd mentioned Scream and even Halloween because there was like a slasher feel to it because the majority of the cast is young teenagers, snarky and goofy and sometimes comical, and they're getting picked off one by one. But I bring up Halloween because of one of the kills. Actually, it wasn't really a kill. It was a scene where two of the girls get stuck in a closet, and it was quite comical because This closet, which didn't initially seem like a walk-in closet, seemed extremely deep. And the monkey comes to the window, or comes to the door of the closet, and kind of has a Michael Myers moment as it breaks through the closet. But then it started having a Jurassic Park moment. If you think of Jurassic World, when the young boys are hiding in a closet from the dinosaurs at the end, and the dinosaur sticks its nose in the closet, and they're really close, this was the same thing. The monkey sticks its face in the closet, and the girls are deep, deep in the back corner of the closet, and they can see his face pressing through all the clothes, but the monkey never gets them. There's also just a couple other Jurassic Park moments. One of the boys, there's a boy that they met on the plane that shows up to party and realizes that they're being attacked by a rabid monkey and gets stuck in one of the girls' bedroom. And right before, he just literally has this, he finds the keys and he's trying to kind of calm the monkey down with the keys, and throws the keys to try and get the monkey to fetch. And I think of Nedry, Wayne Knight in Jurassic Park, when he says, "Fetch the stick, stupid," you know, throws the stick to get the dinosaur away, but it doesn't work. Now, I won't tell you whether or not it works here until we get to spoilers.
Pipettes? 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 Look, stick. See stick? See stick? Yeah. Yeah, look, stick. Look, stick. Stick, stupid. Fetch a stick, boy. Fetch a stick. Yes. You like your stick? Go on, get it. And no wonder you're extinct.
But there was another part where one of the girls gets into a car, and she kind of had a Nedry moment as well. As we learned in Jurassic Park, Nedry dies in his vehicle, and she gets cornered by the monkey.
911, what's your emergency?
Here, just send the police.
Ma'am?
Which this will lead me to the mixed. I think one of the biggest mixed thing is there definitely was some comedy mixed in with these young teenage characters, and it just didn't seem to fit the tone in this movie. I mean, the tone overall was intense and scary, and I felt like this movie didn't lean towards any comedy. The characters seemed pretty serious. Even the young ones seemed pretty serious, especially once everything starts to unravel. And, you know, some of the characters are just making jokes at inopportune times.
This is the right place.
Who the hell has a pet chimp?
Now, I do have to admit, some of the jokes were funny, and that's why I'm mixed about it. Now, this movie seemed to take place over a day or two, maybe a weekend. The basic premise is the father goes away, leaves all the kids alone as they're getting ready to party, and the monkey gets rabies and attacks. And as I said, they were stranded in this pool for a good portion of the movie, and it seemed like whenever the scene pulled away from the pool setting and it would go to somewhere else within the house, and then we would go back to where the girls were stranded in the pool, they were always asleep. And I thought, what the heck? How can you even fall asleep in this scenario, for one? I mean, I get it. It probably seemed to be maybe 24 to 48 hours that had gone by, but they fell asleep multiple times. And this movie was predictable. I mean, you could see every turn, every action coming. There was no major surprises. You knew who was going to die. You knew who was going to live. And I keep this in the mix because overall, the people that died were the ones you wanted to die, and the people that lived are the ones you wanted to live. And I'll leave this in the mix as well. It is derivative of all the movies that I've mentioned, and it just lacks originality. I mean, it just seems like, I've said this before, where AI could have written a story, threw a bunch of other stories into a little AI blender, mixed it up, and popped out a script. Well, it happens here because all those movies, it just felt like certain moments from other movies blended into this movie. That'll move us on to the negatives. And the first thing I think in the negatives were, overall, the majority of the characters were not that likable. I mean, I found them amusing and funny in parts. Even the main stars were okay. Like, Lucy's our final girl. She's come home for the weekend. She's brought home two friends. Her best friend, Kate, and another friend, Hannah. And also there's a boy by the name of Nick who's present who seems to be crushing on Lucy, but then hooks up with Hannah. We also have Lucy's younger sister, Erin. And Erin's mad at Lucy because it's been so long since she's been home. And most of these teenage characters were one-dimensional. Like when I think of the character Hannah, the only thing that ever came up with her was that her and Lucy wore the same locket, and that was really their only connection. And the only thing that happens between the two of them throughout the whole movie, besides battling the monkey all over the house and in the pool. Another thing with the characters were so many of these young girls looked so much alike, especially when they were in the water, in the pool. I could barely tell who was who and what was going on with what. I think what also contributed to that was the lighting in this movie. It was always dark.
You're on the phone. Try recent calls. Yes, it's ringing. Brad, listen to me. We need help.
Oh, you need some help?
Send some.
Now, even the dad, I was mixed, and he wasn't even that likable. Now, there was something different about him, which plays into the movie. He's deaf, and there's lots of sign language being used, and it plays into the movie like at weird times, like when he's in a meeting. There's when we're focused on him, all of a sudden it's silent, and it didn't add to the tension there. Now, there's a scene later on when he gets back to the house to rescue the girls. And it's one of those quiet scenes again, and it was played off a little bit better there, but it was predictable what was going to happen. He was going to come home, chaos was going to ensue behind him, and he was going to be completely oblivious until he turns around. Also in the negatives, just this one little gripe I have. This chimpanzee, Ben, has a speak and spell toy. And I think to myself, what is with all these horror movies trying to use a speak and spell as a plot device or as a thing to elevate horror in a scary movie? Because speak and spells to me are just not really that scary. And there's this one scene where the chimp keeps hitting the speak and spell toy. It's like a device that was given to him to help him learn, and it says dead, 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 dead. And I mean, it was a little bit scary, but kind of corny and quirky.
Lucy, bad, bad, bad.
You're on the phone. Try recent calls. Yes, it's ringing. Brad, listen to me. We need help.
Oh, you need some help?
Send some.
Also in the negatives, I would say there's definitely a little bit of another infection in this movie going on, and that is stupid decisions. I felt like there were so many opportunities for these kids to have gotten to a phone and called the police. In fact, when they do get a phone, they call these two random boys that they met on the plane instead of the police first. And with that, I mean, it just seemed like there was definitely a bunch of opportunities where they could have either gotten to a phone or gotten out, and they just didn't. They never were able to get out. They literally stay in this house all the way till the end until they have to get rescued. Another thing that was considered a real stupid decision, one of our girls walks across glass, Bruce Willis style, gets her foot cut by glass. And I thought, why did you even walk across the glass while you're trying to not attract the attention of this monkey? And with the stupid decisions was also just seemed like certain continuity errors. It's just things that didn't 100% make sense, especially like with the monkey, because I feel like monkeys react to sounds and to noises or something that's going to attract the monkey. And there's some scenes where it seems like the monkey's being really quiet on purpose just to bring up the tension and have him standing in the background. And I feel like, yes, this monkey, this primate, was smarter than the average chimp, but I felt like he wasn't that super smart to be that mysterious, lingering in the background, kind of like in the strangers just standing there. Also, I feel like the monkey would have heard them, especially in the scene where the two girls hide in the closet. You know, he didn't sense them. I felt like he would have sensed them better in the closet quicker than he did. And they just took too long to call the police. And finally, when one of the girls do call the police, she doesn't even know the address of where she's at. And it just delayed the inevitable going on with this primate monkey running amok throughout this house. So we're just going to do a brief spoiler section because I just want to talk a little bit about some of the kills and stuff, which I've already alluded to them a little bit, and the ending. So we wind back to when we talked about one of the drunk boys that showed up to party and found out that there was a monkey in the house, and he ends up in the bedroom. Well, his trick to throw the keys off to the side to get the monkey to run away did not work, and he probably has the most brutal kill in the film. He gets his jaw ripped off after being tormented. Really bad in this movie, and this kill was really good, but this is where I was mixed on the comic, because he was the one making the most comical lines right before he died, and I thought, yeah, I think he should have been in pure panic by this point, because it was pretty apparent. It took him a minute, because he was late to the party, to realize how devastatingly rabid this chimpanzee was.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Then it's our girl Jessica who runs out to the car and is trying to get away from the chimpanzee, and she's the one who calls the police, but she has the keys and she gets in the wrong car. So another thing to add to the stupid decision list. And of course the monkey gets in. And this was a scene that was very derivative of one of the better scenes in Weapons. If you remember in Weapons, when Julia Garner is hiding in the vehicle out front and she's asleep and the trunk opens and you hear someone coming in. Well, this was very similar, where somehow the monkey gets the trunk to open because I guess he had the actual keys to the vehicle and was clicking the lock on and off button and manages to get the trunk open. And it was derivative of that scene in Weapons, you know, the similar scene that we saw in the original Scream as well, when the trunk opens in Scream. I guess I will put it in the positives, the spoiler positives, that the kills are another highlight of the movie. Even though some of them were comical, they were brutal. Nick, the boyfriend, he ends up battling the monkey at the edge of the pool and gets thrown over the side and falls to a brutal death. Breaks his neck at the bottom of this ravine, which is like an ocean ravine, and you know, rock fall. And then her other best friend, Hannah, she's the one with the necklace, and then she gets killed on the stairs coming back down to the pool after they escape the closet, and gets her head bashed in, and that's another brutal kill. And to add to the whole continuity thing, so Dad gets the message that from the doctor, from the vet, that Ben somehow got rabies, but I guess from a mongoose. And then he kind of makes this comment like, how does Ben even have rabies when there's no rabies to be known in Hawaii? So I guess they were in Hawaii. And that leads me to another quick little thing that I'm not sure made sense. But I don't know what the state law is in the state of Hawaii, but I don't think deaf people can drive. I mean, maybe they can nowadays. Maybe I'm behind on this one, but he's fully deaf and he's driving a vehicle, and I thought, that's dangerous. What if someone's honking? You know, I don't think deaf people, and someone can correct me in the comments, put in the comments if you know, state law for Hawaii or any of the U.S. states for that matter. Because Dad finally, after waiting, I thought, too long for his daughters not to answer the phone multiple times, after he's concerned about what's going on back at the house when he learns that Ben has rabies, he finally decides to go back, and that's where we get our climax, where, like, in the predictability, everyone was dead except for the kids. His two daughters are the only ones left alive, and it gets pretty brutal in the ending. I mean, everyone takes a pretty decent beating. So the youngest daughter gets Erin. She gets bit. She got bit early on and spends the majority of the film floating on this raft, taking naps. And then the older sister, who's the main star, she stayed pretty unscathed for the majority of the movie until this climax. And it gets pretty brutal with the monkey just beating them all down before finally they are able to overcome this monkey. She basically throws him off a ledge, and he gets like harpooned through his chest with like a piece of wood from like a broken chair or something. And it's a somewhat happy ending for at least the immediate family. Everyone in the immediate family, dad and two daughters, survive, but everyone else is cooked. They're dead, and it's a pretty gory and brutal scene. So we'll get down to business on this one because overall it was a decent one-time watch. I did enjoy it. I mean, it was very intense. I liked going through it. You know, for as predictable and unoriginal as it could have been, I still enjoyed the movie for a watch. So I'm going to give it a basic burger. And I'm going to say a basic burger with extra ketchup because this one is a little gorier than I expected, and I liked it. I liked the gore. This is Johnny with Good Burgers saying please like, subscribe, tap that notification bell for future horror content, and don't forget to stay scared of those rabid pet monkeys that trap you and your friends in your house all weekend until Dad comes home.